All right, this is Diamonds and Duds, a sci-fi review, and today we're going to do
Santa conquers the Martians.
This one was a little weird.
Yeah.
This is one that with it being Christmas time here in about a week or so, we wanted to do a Christmas sci-fi movie. Spoiler: there's not a lot of them.
There really, really isn't. And, this is a movie that happened.
It happened, yes. So as we do this, we're on all the different social platforms, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Obviously, you're listening to this, so you know it's on one of those. It's on Spotify. Ivan tries to remember to release it to YouTube because I have to release it manually.
Oh, yeah.
So sometimes those release a day or so later, and then Ivan doesn't remember that it's in the private thing of the YouTube channel. So it releases a few days even after that.
We're getting used to this, guys. We're on what, episode 5? 7?
Yeah, I think we're on episode 5.
Yeah, episode 5.
We're getting used to doing this. So Santa Claus conquers the Martians.
Yeah, and by the way, also, I don't know if you knew, just based on simple math, this is the 60th anniversary of Santa Conquers the Martians. It came out in 1964, presumably, I assume, in December and not, March.
That I'm very confused now at some of the. I'm very confused at some of the sci-fi, some of the stuff I saw on IMDb because they were linking people to. Apparently, this is getting remade in 2 years, and it must have just been linking the person who had the original story to give them credit. Because now I'm really confused. Because who knows? Maybe a 20-year-old wrote it 60 years ago, but probably not.
So, all right. So we got a synopsis here. The Martians kidnap Santa Claus because there is no one on Mars to give their children presents. Wah, wah, wah.
Yeah, and if that sounded like a small synopsis, that's because it is.
Yeah.
There's not a lot going on with this movie.
There's not. It's really, there's no B story.
I will say that at times there are some characters I thoroughly enjoy. You're supposed to find them funny, and I legitimately we'll get to them at that moment. I will say one thing. I'll say as the movie was starting, there is a Christmas song I had never heard before. I thought I wrote this down. Hooray for Santy Claus, Santy Claus. That song is on Spotify.
Oh, really?
So Ivan promptly added that to his Christmas Spotify. I even paused the movie and then went into Spotify and added that song. The actual song from the movie is on Spotify, so I added that into the rotation there.
My comment was less kind. What a shitty ripoff from a better Christmas song.
A couple things here. One, Rotten Tomatoes. The critics. Apparently, critics reviewed this. Feel bad for them.
Wow.
25% liked it.
Wow. And this is going to date it, folks. That is quite higher than newly released this weekend, Kraven the Hunter from Sony Pictures. That's probably about 8% higher than Kraven the Hunter. Okay.
Yeah. And what's fun, getting completely sidetracked, is that Charles, you sent me a text a couple days ago mentioning that it wasn't doing so great. I was on TikTok and kind of scrolling around, and there was the trailer for Kraven the Hunter. Or was it on TikTok or Facebook? Facebook Shorts. I forget which one was on. But there are some people really fooling themselves in the comments. They're a bunch of them are I don't know if they're AI planted by Sony, but they're I can't wait for this. This looks amazing. But then every once in a while you'll run into them one of the people who were serious. Yeah. They're you guys saw what I saw, right? But Steve Crum, who's from the Kansas City Kansan, I thought his comment on Rotten Tomatoes from a critics was about the funniest and most appropriate, because I wrote this down ahead of time. Maybe I should look for these afterwards to not taint stuff. But his comment was low expectations met.
That's fair. That's good.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty funny. But yeah, as it opens up with that, hooray for Santa Claus, and it almost feels like, and granted, I'm going to give it a little bit of a pass because maybe it was so long. This feels like a straight to TV movie.
It kind of does. I don't know. Obviously, we weren't alive in the '60s, but can't comment as if it was or not. But it kind of feels that way. It kind of feels like it has the budget, of a made-for-TV movie with, we have $25, left over in the budget. Here, make a movie with $25.
Yeah, it's like it felt like whatever studio made this, they had on this hey, you can use all this shit that we're gonna throw away and make a Christmas movie, or we're firing you.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, because the other thing is normally I'll go through, hey, here's the other stuff the director did or the writer did, but this one's 60 years ago, and so I didn't recognize any of the stuff, so it didn't seem worth bringing up.
No, yeah, I was just kind of clicked as I was watching it, and just some of the cast and stuff. I'm like, usually you see something you've heard of. I went pretty deep into the well.
But also, the other side of the coin is it's quite possible, and we should have looked at this, but it's quite possible that these people, let's say you wrote this when you were in your 50s, you're not going to have a ton of stuff afterwards. Yeah. And when was the McCarthy stuff and all that kind of crap was going on around this time too?
Yeah.
So
I think the McCarthy stuff was a little bit earlier. 50s,
as I said that, I think I was completely off.
Yeah, I think it was in the 50s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as you can tell, also, we don't edit or audit, fact check or
that's not necessary. I've always been more of a measure once, cut twice guy myself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So when we open up, we are they're doing an interview in the North Pole, which is which is very different. And there's going to be a kind of a continuity thing or lapse in making sense later to it, but. I just wrote down the elves that they chose for this movie. They look like they have done 3 to 5 for assault.
You're right, and you can tell they also wanted. I don't know if this was a rule back then, acting wise. Yeah. I know now you have to have a spoken line in a movie to get your SAG card, and it seems clear they did not want any of those elves to get their SAG card. They were going to get beaten if they spoke.
Yeah. Yeah, I think one did speak. It was gravelly voice, and I'm like, I don't want to fuck with these elves.
No, there was. I found the whole idea of an interview up there, and granted, this is where it's a kids movie, so I'll give it a little bit benefit of the doubt. But it's they have a guy with a camera up at the North Pole. How are they getting power?
Yeah.
Oh, it looks like the North. It looks like Santa's workshop is like a shack.
Yeah, we see Santa, and I wrote down this comment. I think almost the entire budget was spent on Santa's costume. I'm not complimenting the costume. It just feels that's where most of the money went. I'm not saying his costume's awesome. I'm just saying it's reflected in the rest of the movie.
Yeah, and I think the most of the budget was they went to the equivalent of a KB Toys for some of these scenes and just bought a bunch of shit and then stripped off anything that was going to get, assuming they had the same stuff for copyrights and showing stuff back then that they do now.
Yeah,
it feels like that was the majority of the budget. And around this time, and part of this is the time. I thought it was interesting that Santa was smoking.
Yeah,
that wouldn't go over. Probably would have gone over maybe 15 years ago still, but even 15 years ago, Santa blowing the smoke in the interviewer's face wouldn't have gone over well.
No. Yeah, you totally get that. So he's showing the this present, and I'm just thinking wait, this actual rocket. I'm like, wait, the kids get real rocket fuel with this? That's dangerous as shit to give to kids. Good God, people are gonna die.
Yeah, and also it's making awful light of nuclear weapons back then.
Yeah.
And when only a mere 20 years ago we bombed Japan.
Yep. Yeah.
And at this point, I think we were scared of the Russians bombing us.
Yeah, totally. This is 1964, so we're talking only what we got. Right, still in that big heart of the Cold War. I want to say, Kennedy died in '63, right? So it was kind of right in the middle of all that. So the Cuban Missile Crisis was still pretty recent, and yeah.
And then it kind of ends this part with showing what they think a Martian looks like as far as a Martian toy, which, to be honest, is probably at the time a knockoff Barbie they painted green.
Probably, yeah.
But it was fine for what it was.
Yeah, and then we get to see that we transition to Mars, and I'm kind of like. I wrote, who the fuck designed these Martian costumes?
It felt like, and tell me if I'm exaggerating here, Charles. It felt like they took house paint from the equivalent of the Home Depot of the time, and just used wall paint and painted the people with wall paint.
Oh, I wouldn't be surprised if it was close to that. I mean, yeah, The Wizard of Oz was a while ago before that, but they didn't do much better. Like, people, they used toxic as crap, painting stuff, and it kind of feels like the same kind of thing there. I mean, maybe, maybe it was same with that, but yeah, it just looks like house paint. I thought, as far as design, let's just make a bunch of circles everywhere, and that's going to be Mars. That's strange. A whole bunch of circles in different ways everywhere, Just, it felt like with a lot of the Martians, they're like, okay, we want to make this as easy as possible, so they're like, all of the references are going to be, human, things they do human, but, still we're gonna act like they're so completely they're the strangest thing ever. Like, they have all the exact food that we do, just it's in pill form, so they're all strange. It was just weird. It was, lazy.
Yes, and we kind of go with what I tend to do with these with our movies too is I tend to not remember what anybody's name is. Obviously, I remember Santa's name. His name's Santa, but when we get to Mars, I called him Lazy Guy. Yeah. In retrospect, it should have been Clumsy Guy or Dumb Guy.
Dopper.
Yeah, Dopper. Yeah. Dopper's practicing sleeping when you get to Mars, which I found kind of funny, but also I think it's meant to be this writer's equivalent of foreshadowing.
Oh yeah,
but if he foreshadowed by throwing it in your face as Randy Johnson throwing a fastball at you.
Oh, look at how strange these Martians are. Yeah.
And one of the things I wrote down here, and I'm pretty sure it was one of because it also goes to the kids were watching that when we talked a little earlier about that Santa interview. It also goes to the kids. Two of the kids were watching. And how they get those, it's just, hey, it's a kid's movie, believe stuff. They can see for some reason, they can see Los Angeles's TV channels.
Yeah.
But the one thing I wrote down is one of the kids said, "What is tender loving care?" I thought that was awful sad.
This movie is so inconsistent with how they describe the kids. Pretty soon after this, they describe basically as the kids aren't kids. They're born as adults with adults mind that raise. So I'm like, then why the hell is this even necessary to have a Santa? If they're born with adult minds, they're not supposed to
Well, it's also the kids in this movie apparently can't fall asleep. So for the last few months, they've been shooting them with a gun to have them fall asleep.
Yeah, I love it. It's
I don't know. I don't know what that is, but that can't be safe for the kids.
Yeah.
I don't know all about Martian physiology. Yeah. That can't be safe for the kids.
No. So we're gonna drug them, and just why are they having trouble? Because they're not supposed to know about. They don't supposed to have kid thoughts.
If they're not supposed to have kid thoughts, why are they letting them watch Earth programs?
Exactly.
I mean, don't get me wrong. That's probably good for the kids that they're watching it because it's being treated as adults at the age of 3 can't be good for you.
No, it's not. We're not advising that whatsoever.
But the elders, and when I say elders, I think there's only 5 people on Mars. I think because they portray the main guy you're watching is the head Mr. President of Mars.
Yeah,
but he handles everything himself.
Yeah.
And he's like, hey, council, we need to get together. But it'd be like if the president and his cabinet handled everything themselves.
Council's the one that goes.
Yeah.
And like, okay, so then he gets like, all right, council, we're gonna go. Basically, they're gonna go ask their wise Yoda, in the forest, because there's forests on Mars apparently. I mean, so the 1960s we knew less about Mars, but we knew sure as shit that Mars didn't have any goddamn forests.
See, I had a problem with it in a different text. They said, hey, this guy's like 200 years old. Meaning he's an elder in their society, someone they revere.
Yeah.
So they kick him out into the goddamn woods and just no one takes care of him.
Yeah, and nobody wants to. That one guy, our head guy, is the only guy that wants to hear from him at all.
And if any of you who are listening have ever seen old Star Trek shows, it follows that to a T, kind of. In that if you have a mustache or you have a goatee, you're the evil one.
Yep.
However, as we get into this, I'm going to make an argument that the guy with the mustache is the only good person on Mars.
I very much think that's a valid point of view.
Because he's meant to be the evil one. But a lot of his stuff is like, hey, why are we kidnapping Santa? Hey, maybe we should let these kids go.
Yeah. So going into the elder or whatever, like spider webs and rocks everywhere. Like, why is the forest, quote forest, has spider webs and rocks everywhere? And like the elder's talking and stuff like that. Mike, I had a question. How the hell does the elder know what month it is on Earth when A, he's on Mars, and B, he lives in a bunch of spider webs and rocks? How does he know what month it? How does he know all about Christmas?
That is very fair. The other thing I noticed is that he seems to be sick, but also nobody gives a shit.
No one cares about this guy at all. I'm like, come on, no, you just go live in the woods and suffer.
So, and a completely rational thing, it's like, hey, we need Santa, so let's go kidnap the one from Earth.
Yeah. I'm like, there's no more Mars kids ever play. How is the word play even in their vocabulary?
That is very valid.
How is the word play even a word on Mars? But because it is on Earth. And they're trying we're just going to use everything Earth. There's no real differences, but they're trying to sell it as they're so different. But we're like, ooh, then they start to they start to look in view or whatever, and one that comment I made when they start showing the Earth cities, because they decide they take whatever their spaceship is, they take and fly. Hey, we're at Earth now, because and again I don't fault that, because it's a kids movie, so. Yeah. But as to your point, so it's the council that goes, so.
It'd be like if the president of the United States decided, hey, we need to kidnap somebody in Russia, and him and the cabinet, I don't care what side of the aisle you're on politically, it'd be like if Biden and his cabinet went to Russia personally to go kidnap. Go kidnap the Easter Bunny.
It's just, So they start looking at the cities. I'm like, the Earth cities look way more advanced than these shitty spaceships. They look way more advanced. I mean, again, really, again on the ship, a pattern is just different colored circles in different ways, and that's apparently advanced spatial technology. And Mars, just put a whole bunch of circles all over the set, in different shapes and sizes.
Because shapes are weird.
Yep.
The one thing, and I forget if it was here or in the next Earth montage.
Yeah.
Did you catch the Air Force thing?
I mean, I have it written, I think, at least 2 to 3 times. Stock footage alert. Footage alert.
Not just that, but you could tell. I don't think the Air Force plane was stock footage, because it says Air Force, but the RCE is diagonally down. It's Basically, it's not in a straight line, and part of me thinks that the Air Force wouldn't allow that because it looks really shitty.
Yeah. Yeah, so they think there's like, oh, we see all kinds of Santas. We'll just find one and take them, take them. So they find these kids, and they find these kids, and they're gonna and they find basically ask them what which where to go for Santa. They said, oh, you're in the north, in the North Pole and whatnot. So they decide to take them, and then again, Droppo. I wrote Droppo was the worst excuse for comic relief ever.
Yes. For me, he gets better as it goes, but I think that might be because everybody else is so bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, he grows on me a little bit, and I find him a little bit endearing. But I think that's because everybody here is so bad. Because it's like, so we're at the point now. Are we at the point now where the kids are on the ship?
No, well, almost. At this point, I paused it like after they did the plan and they're about to go down. I'm like, only 20 minutes in. Fuck.
Funny you say that.
Yeah. And like interaction with the kids, like kids seem kind of like idiots, I thought it was a weird, like the Air Force, they found, because apparently these Martians are idiots. And so they just kind of flew in and like everyone in the United States, like the world, I guess, is like, oh my God, there's a goddamn alien out there. And so they start searching for the alien, and I thought it was a really weird search process of just launching a whole bunch of planes and just having them fly randomly around the world looking for this spaceship.
I don't know a lot about 60s technology, but I have to imagine they'd have a better process than just let's launch random planes and have them fly around looking out their canopy for the spaceship.
Yep. But that's what they went with. So... But yeah, they're out. The kids are on the spaceship now. I mean, I wrote Droppo's a fucking moron. And as they then are going to go to the North Pole.
Yeah, around this time, I had been giving it credit for being a kids' movie.
Yeah,
it's at this point where I stopped because the Martians pointed what looked like assault rifles at two children in a Christmas movie.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm like, good God, are they going to fucking kill these two kids? In a kids movie.
I kind of would have been okay with it.
To be honest, the kids probably would be too.
Probably. They're probably like, you know what, I want to go home. This movie sucks. They go on, the North Pole. The kids kind of like, escape.
See, and the part they had them in this room. Okay, they had the kids and Droppo in a room. Droppo's supposed to be watching them, and for some reason the cabinet decided Droppo should watch them, even though he's a idiot. So they leave to go down to Santa. Okay, then the kids escape. The kids make it out of the spaceship first by a significant margin.
And they're like, oh, the North Pole looks suspiciously like the Martian forest, but with no spider webs. And just painted white. Worst polar bear ever. I thought okay. That's
See, I wrote early furry.
Yeah, early furry.
Basically, at this point, guys, there was the evil. At this point, he's probably still evil because he was the one, I think, who pointed the assault rifle at the kids. But he runs into, I'll say, polar bear in quotation marks. Realistically, it was a guy. They weren't even trying to hide it.
No,
it was a guy in a bear costume, and like half the time, he's just standing on 2 feet.
Yeah, he wasn't even trying to act like a bear. But and also around that, like the Martians are like, all right, so to get this in, they keep on like Torg. We're gonna get Torg, Torg's good to do that, and they finally they're holding off the real what Torg looks like, and goddamn, Torg was a fucking disappointment.
But also, they're building up Torg like Torg is the pinnacle of our technology.
Yeah.
He's the pinnacle of our technology. He's what the Martian civilization's based off of.
Yeah.
Spoiler, later on, they just fucking leave him there.
Yeah, he left. They left him at the North Pole. He's a toy now.
And also, this is, since I had already now no longer was giving it credit for being a kid's movie,
Yeah.
They sent Tord to kill the kids.
Yep.
And it's like...
Also, it's important to know for an issue I have later on, and then the continuity issue I read at the very beginning, that the reason why they took the kids is they were afraid they specifically said, but the kids are going to, if we leave the kids, they're going to tell somebody. Okay? So leave the kids. So, we get to the North Pole, and first of all, you see Santa again. Santa in the North Pole is wearing a version of his costume with short sleeves, which, considering we're in the North Pole, the Arctic, I thought was a bit of an odd choice.
Yeah.
And so, they start freezing everybody. So the Martians were worried that the kids would talk. But they didn't care about Mrs. Claus talking, when obviously we've established that...
I think they just found... the little bit of time they were with Mrs. Claus, they found her annoying as shit.
Yes. She obviously knows... They obviously know news people. They had the news people over in the beginning of the movie. Stock footage alert. And then, Santa's back on the ship, right? And, the kids are Santa's all happy-go-lucky in the cell, and the kids, are sad as hell.
They're the kids are sad legitimately because they just got fucking kidnapped.
Yeah.
They're worried that they're ever going to see their parents again. Yeah. Are they going to kill us? These things look like monsters. For some reason, they speak English.
Yeah.
But then Santa's nah, we're all good.
Yeah.
He doesn't seem to even care that he was kidnapped.
No, he doesn't.
Is that because he hates Mrs. Claus that much?
Maybe. And Drappo, and Santa's oh, Drappo always makes me laugh. What the hell are you talking about? You just got kidnapped. How long have you known Drappo?
Well, now, stop me if I'm... I forget where I wrote this down. Yeah. One of the continuity errors that I had was that whether it was the United States or Earth as a whole, remember how they sent rockets to go after them?
Yeah.
They sent a rocket to Mars. What I'm about to say, this is the last we will hear of Santa.
Yes, believe me, yeah. We're going to gear up. We're going to get Santa. And you hear nothing about that the rest of the movie. Nothing. I was with the movie, I was wait, what about... Yeah, so
and during the course of them getting to Mars, actually, but before they get to Mars, the mean one also tried another situation before he turns to be the rational one.
Yeah,
he decides to try and kill the kids in Santa.
Yeah, and. Exactly. So, for the airlock, and again, Santa's not being really helpful at all in this. Santa's having some suggestions. I wrote down, Santa's gonna get Bill killed. The way he's oh no, he probably just forgot to he's gonna get you killed, Bill. And and then of course a chimney looking thing, so after they get out Santa, when they, then show up, Santa's all awfully cavalier, and even these kids are. Santa and the kids are awfully cavalier about the fact that they just narrowly avoid dying, and they're all just, laughing, right before the cutaway at the end of a sitcom,
Because basically, what happens here is that, for some reason, that they go on a tour with the evil guy. Yeah. And the evil guy, the first stop on the tour is where they go outside is the airlock. And the kids are hey, we shouldn't do this because he's going to fucking kill us.
Yeah.
And Santa's I trust him. And the guy's yeah, you shouldn't. I'm going to fucking kill you. And he leaves.
Yeah.
And then it goes to the point where, hey, they magically get out and the kids don't. I think at this point the kids are just resigned to the fact that they're fucked.
And I think Stockholm Syndrome takes over right away because from this point on, the kids are excited and love being there. So I don't know if Santa bewitched them, but for the rest of the movie, those two kids act like this is the best time of their lives.
Yeah, because basically they get down to Earth. It's Earth. They get down to whatever they. I also found it weird that they didn't even talk about what the name of the Mars city was.
No, it's just Mars.
They basically get down to the Mars city where the president lives, and they create a a machine to build toys, and the kids love it. And the kids apparently I'm wondering how bad their home life was. Also, that like this is happening awful quick.
Yeah.
But also, it's around this point that the quote-unquote evil guy starts turning into the rational person.
Yeah.
Because he's like, hey, guys, we probably shouldn't have kidnapped. Can't we just send Santa and the kids back to Earth? And they're like, no, you're evil. And he's like, it doesn't sound evil.
Yeah, exactly. And then, like, you know, because, like, and, you know, they built Santa's workshop, and Santa's like, all right, now it's all set. So you guys, you know.
you guys get to make toys for the entire planet forever.
Yeah, so, like, Santa's like, all right, you guys enjoy, and if I leave now, I'll get back by Christmas Eve. And like, oh, no, you're not leaving. And then, like, it finally dawns on dim bulb Santa what's actually going on. He has this look of, like, oh, like, what it, like, you know. And then, like, you know, they go, like, they check on the children. They ask them, like, hey, how's it going, kids? Everything is great. Everything is great. You've been kidnapped by aliens.
You've been kidnapped by aliens and now forced to work.
Yeah.
And, by the way, how are their bodies able to take Martian food?
Yeah.
How at the very least, that would give them explosive diarrhea.
Yeah. It definitely some major processing issues for sure. Like Stockholm. This becomes Stockholm syndrome of the movie.
Yeah.
You know.
And then around this time, we get the second weird fight scene.
Yes, the fight scenes were just so.
It's like, I think what it is it's one of those things where I'm trying to remember. Iron Fist.
Yeah.
These fight scenes reminded me of Iron Fist. It's like, hey, what if the person doing the fight scene is so bad that even though it's like a 90-second fight scene, what if we do 37 cuts?
Yeah.
Because if we do 37 cuts in 90 seconds, nobody's going to be able to tell that Iron Fist can't throw a punch.
Yep.
And so, yeah.
Yeah, and we get, so basically, evil guy turned rational guy, his plan is to kidnap Santa and switch a couple wires in the toy machine, which doesn't really seem it. So somehow, Droppo, you know, like, tries on a new Santa costume, and, you know, somehow they think Droppo is Santa for some...
And the one thing we haven't mentioned for the people who haven't seen this movie is the Martians are what you think. They look like the kazoo from
Flintstones.
From the Flint, only tall, only normal size.
Yep.
You know, kind of on person size. And so basically, Droppo had a pillow inside his thing to make him look fat, but like he didn't have really a Santa hat on.
No, he didn't have
He just sort of was Droppo with a Santa jacket on, but like they're like, hey, that's Santa.
Like, again, idiots.
It's also was like, it's kind of one of those things where it's like someone in the editing room or when they were going over the script is like, has to raise their hand and like, guys, come on. I know we're making this going back to the beginning for $25, but can't we just write something in? Write in one line of dialogue that makes this kind of makes sense?
Yeah, and so... You know, the kids, you know, the Martians and the kids, the Martian kids are like, oh, like, the toys are all mixed up. Like, how do you know how does a Martian kid know what human toys are wrong?
And why are the Martian kids asking for baseball bats?
Yeah. Again, we're just going to pretend they're so strange. We're just going to use everything. That's
and at this point, the scene they're in here and the scene before this when they're in this, I think this is where their budget went.
Yeah.
Because on the floor you see what I'm assuming is every possible toy variation that was around in the 60s.
Yeah.
I think they just went to a toy store and just mass bought a bunch of shit
and just threw it all on the ground. Yeah. And so fight scene happens. I did mention the fact that where they're keeping Droppo, there's a nuclear curtain. That seems very unsafe.
Yeah.
You know, again, really cavalier, you know, product of the 60s, maybe, but really cavalier tone about, you know, nuclear power here. But, you know, they eventually, you know, the good, quote unquote, I guess, good guys win the day, and the kids get to go back. Kids of Santa get to go back home.
And did you also notice that Santa flew him home?
Yeah, that was weird. How's
Because
Santa?
apparently they gave Santa a spaceship and they let Santa fly home to Earth.
Yeah,
And it's like,
as I guess as Martians are wont to do.
yeah.
You know. So yeah, this was a movie that was made. Is it a diamond or a dud for you?
You're going to be surprised.
Really?
Diamond.
Wow.
Diamond 5 is like the top, right?
Diamond being an actually good movie. 5 being.
I'd say Diamond 1.
Diamond 1. Okay.
For me, it was one of those things where I'm glad I watched it once.
Yeah.
It was only like 80 minutes. It didn't. It was a lot of it. I gave to the time. For me, it had enough fun characters that I was able to get through it. Like I thought by the end of it, I thought Droppo was entertaining.
Yeah.
For me, I have a really sick sense of humor, so I thought the kids being in like not caring that they were kidnapped, I thought that was really funny, and so I'd say probably a Diamond 1.
Yeah. Me, I'm a dud. I would say I'd probably put it 2.5 to a 3 as a dud. It definitely has some rewatchability. It's a dud. Like I don't think it's a good movie, but it definitely has it's so bad it's funny qualities where like
and that's kind of that's what I was thinking. I'm not fooling myself to think this was a good movie.
Yeah.
But it was one of those ones where I found entertaining because I had no idea what to expect for it.
Yeah. Whereas like the last one movie that we watched that was a dud, Superman Commando.
Oh God.
There wasn't so bad as funny. That was just shit. This has some so bad as funny, you know, whether it's just the crappy sets or just products of the time or whatever like that. So like I'd probably 2.5 to a 3 for as far as a dud for me. There's some entertainment. It's fun, fun, harmless crap. Yeah.
All right, I think that's going to wraps up our kind of review synopsis of it. Couple things. One, again, we're trying to get better with this. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, X, whatever that's called, YouTube. And now that I think about it, I need to set up a Blue Sky thing for it.
Yeah, Blue Sky.
I started going on Blue Sky just because it's at least people haven't contaminated it yet, and for the most part, people are happy on there.
Yeah,
and most other places on the internet, no one's happy.
Yeah. One other thing I know we always do is, hey, where can you watch this movie? This movie you can watch by going on YouTube, and the movie is just there.
And it's not like, and I don't think it's like, hey, it's there because somebody uploaded it who shouldn't have. I think just because it's so old, I wouldn't be surprised if no one technically owns the rights.
Yeah, no one gives a shit. This movie was, as you mentioned in the preview at the end of last time, this movie was one that was done at Mystery Science Theater.
Yes,
at one point.
And that also is free on YouTube.
Oh, nice.
You can if you just want for people who haven't watched Mystery Science Theater.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be this. Watch Mystery Science Theater.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, next time, we're going to be checking out... We're going to be checking out a city. We're going to be checking out an asteroid city. Asteroid City came out in Critical Darling, movie darling that came out in 2023. It is available on Peacock. It's one of those, was it Wes Anderson?
Yeah, it's one of those Wes Anderson ones, and it kind of has... It has the Wes Anderson crew to infinity.
Yes. So, check us out next time as we see whether or not Asteroid City hits the mark.
All right. Have a good one, everybody.
Yep. Adios.
Bye.